Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, we are the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Andy Van Beber. Joining me, as always, is Travis Kirkendall. And we were still without our fearless leader, but he actually requested for an extra week off, and I should have just said, if I was real hard, no, you can't do that. You just moved across the country and are taking on a totally new lifestyle change. No, you can't do that. No, but, I was like, dude, take as long as you want. So Sean is adjusting.
He's dealing with a lot, right?
He is dealing with a lot. He's making the adjustment. He's got his ladies out there, so that helps him out a lot. And I like his porch views. If you follow Sean on Facebook, you need to see some of the views of. I think he's going to be. He'll be a Los Angeles before you know it. I mean, just straight up, but he's doing okay. So, how was your weekend, Travis?
Weekend was all right. We didn't do a whole lot. Actually, didn't really do anything.
That's
she
always
was
good.
Working. I just kind of did stuff around the house, got the car cleaned up, and gym, normal routine stuff. I didn't do anything crazy. How about you?
Yeah, we went and saw Thor: Love and Thunder on Friday. Janine took half a day off of work, and we went and saw it. And not to give too much away, but I was slightly disappointed. It was good.
Why?
After Thor Ragnarok, and Thor Ragnarok is by far my favorite Thor movie. And it had the right taste of action, comedic relief, and I think they kind of ran with that on this one. And they just like 48 gazillion one-liners, just zingers in there, and it didn't really start getting serious till about the last 40 minutes. The last 40 minutes of the movie were excellent. Were on point and contributed to the story and did everything, that it was supposed to do. So, Craig McGuire, that FYI, that t-shirt is not flame retardant. Okay.
What's the t-shirt say?
This is our YIG, our youth and government shirts, and I'm sure Craig, were you wearing this when you had your little fire episode?
Oh, Jesus!
When he burned half his face off, but no. But then Saturday did an old student's wedding. And he said this was the shirt he was wearing. Okay, yeah. So no, but we did I did my old buddy Ryan Boer's wedding. I got to hang out with an old friend of ours, Ryan Robbins. We talked the night away and talked about a lot of great jokes. And he's I'm trying to say
reminiscing of corn dogs and hot wings. And
Bev, bring me a corn dog every time. But no, he's doing great, and his lovely girlfriend. And I said, dude, let's get this thing going. You need to pop that question. He's like, oh, we're moving towards that, and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, all right, so. But no, and then yesterday I climbed back into the saddle as a youth leader yesterday after taking almost a 5-year hiatus. I got back into the youth game yesterday at church, and I'm a little rusty, but it actually felt pretty good. But so now Sundays I'm going up and back to Quincy twice, which is not a problem, but you only get about 2 hours in between church, and so. And then today.
So what does that consist of? The youth that you're doing?
Well, the church that I'm at now is quite a bit larger than the last one that I was at, and it's I actually do junior high youth, and so I am working with 6th through 8th graders, and they've got this church that I'm at. They've got people, and nothing like I've ever had before, because I used to have had to do everything from teaching the lesson to planning the games to getting the food to doing the. They've got a person for music. They've got a person for food. They've got multiple persons for games. And then I have assistants in the room, and I didn't even feel like I was. But this is totally non. I'm not on staff or anything like that, so less pressure on me for that, since I'm not on staff, and it's just, and it was a good gig, and it is a good gig. And then today my kids did Bible school, so we went back up to Quincy Day, and while they were doing Bible school, I did an exercise in abject futility and did lift in Quincy, which is, I might as well just parked a cow out in the middle of Broadway and tried to milk it, because I would have got more attention. 4 hours, I gave 3 rides. The Quincy market is ridiculous. There's nothing there. And why Lyft agreed to, because you have to get a certain amount to get people to, I don't know what it says, to contract or to be included in a contract zone. See, so I'm contracted to do Lyft in all the way from Springfield to Quincy, all the way down to Belleville. That's my zone. And so I can Lyft anywhere in there, but in order for Quincy to be included in that market, they had to prove that they had them. I don't know if you want to call it market share or whatever, but there's nothing there.
You can call it that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, the good thing is my kids got to do Bible school, and they got to be with their buddies today. And well, I sat and did a bunch of nothing. So other than that,
which didn't make much money, which leads us into one of our topics we're going to talk about.
Yes. Today. And we're actually going to lead off with what the podcast survey was about today. And again, thank you for those who took part. 56%. Our choices were economic issues, mental health, work, personal health, i.e. weight and sickness, and relational issues. And 56% said work. 25% said personal health, and 13% said economic issues, and 6% said mental health. And I guess everybody's doing great on relational issues, because nobody voted for relational issues. So,
well, that's nice.
I guess that's great. But Travis, you and I were talking about before we went on tonight about how much. This inflation is finally starting. It's trickled down to us on, what would you say, kind of like us on this level now.
I guess whatever you call this level.
I mean, it's not
definitely not upper class.
It's not, and it's not. And you know more about this than I do. I mean, in the market they call it, correctionary periods, and this is not one of those. This is a straight-on, full-on inflationary period, which, if not dealt with before long, will lead us into a recessionary
Pretty
period.
much.
I mean, am I off too much by that, or what do you think?
To my knowledge, you're about right. I forget what the percentage is that it's like if the market's down.
It's 3/4. It's 3/4.
Like 20% for a certain amount
of time. Isn't it for? It's for 3. It's for 2. Is it 2 quarters or 3 quarters?
I don't know for sure.
I want to say I want to say 3, but
we're definitely in a bear market.
Yeah.
Or at least we're getting there.
I do, and I do. I have this, so I do this stock trading game with my kids, and this year I thought, you know what, and Sean actually got me started on this Robinhood app. It's just it's one of these what do you call it, like free trade. I mean, it's not anything special. But my Robinhood trader, okay, now. So I've been doing this now I've been using Robinhood now for over a year. Okay. Sean kind of got me, it was when the whole GameStop thing, when all that garbage was going on.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I got in on that, and so I I just put $20 in there and I've let it ride. I got as high, and this tells you how, I mean, when I go, so I look here and I'm looking at my 1 year, and I got as high with the $20, I got up to $52. I made up to $52 in the 52 week, and I'm looking at it right now. And right now I'm at 25, so I'm back down. I haven't dropped below, I've never dropped below $20, but I'm at 25.74 right now, and I was as high as $52 in a 52 week period. That's where I've went. So
I would say though, the GameStop stock is not a great indicator of.
No, but I'm
stock
yeah,
market.
I'm invested. No, I never invested in GameStop. I'm actually.
Okay, this wasn't GameStop.
No. Let me see. Right now, I am invested in. I don't even know what these. I've got 4 different Drive Shack. What's this one? Alena Pharmaceuticals, Lordstown Motors, which is I don't know what that is, and then Mullen Automotive. These were they're manufacturers of different auto parts.
Okay.
And so, I read, your knowledge of the market is so much more deeper and wider than mine, but I just play around with it. I kind of treat it like a game almost, but it's $20 and it's nothing that I'm ever, and it's amazing to see for people who have millions of dollars tied up in the market. I think I would lose my lunch if that kind of percentage, if I go up by 100%, and then I drop right back down to where I started from, I would literally be sick right now in the fact that where the markets are at. But I mean, from what I've always been told, the markets are for, you can't make a quick dime off the market unless you're just constantly.
Unless you're a day trader.
Yeah.
But most people aren't day traders.
Yeah. What are you invested in?
Everything I invest in is long term. I don't trade. So like most of my stuff, besides like my Roth IRAs and like long term stuff, like the individual stocks I have, usually it's like index funds, like follow like your S&P 500 and stuff like that. I would say the only individual stock that I currently have is I've been buying Disney ever since it's been under $100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are, they're a little bit against Disney just because, Disney's gone woke.
Yeah.
However, I will say Disney's influence and like the stuff that they own.
Everything they've got.
In the long term, I do not see Disney going anywhere.
If you look at they've got their market share in ABC, ESPN. They've got now they're kind of got this partnership with Hulu. I don't know if they own Hulu?
I don't know if they own them, but I think there was a partnership.
There's a partnership there, and then all of the, you can't go wrong with Disney. But and
they own Star Wars, which I was so happy with. Kenobi series.
Right, Star Wars, and then they've got Star Wars, they've got Marvel, they've got Pixar, they've got all of that. But when you look at the everyday folks like us, and I consider us to be the everyday folk, hence why we call Voice of Reason. What are the indications that we're seeing right now as to how long? In your eyes, what needs to happen for us to be able to get through this? What needs to happen for us to get out of the recessionary era and then get back on a normal track?
For starters, we got to get control of inflation. They're raising rates and inflation's not really doing anything. I think it even went up like 0.1% or something. It's right off the bat, you got to get control of that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, the political climate I think has a big factor on it as well. There's a lot of uncertainty, and people are really skeptical or scared to get into the markets when there's a lot of uncertainty. Like for example, I'm invested in, I have investments in cryptocurrency. And one of the things, and I think this applies for the stock market too, that a lot of people look into is like the fear and greed index. And I mean, fear is at an all-time low and like the crypto world. I mean, you're talking, it's rated from like 1 to 100. For the past like 3 months, it's been like below 10. It's like 2, 5, 7, back
Jeez.
down to 5. It's just, it's crazy. So, I mean, there's just a lot of uncertainty. And as far as everything that needs to happen, God, I wish we could have Hank on for this. I
Hmm.
just think the biggest thing right now is we need to get control of inflation. And I mean, long term wise, we got to get control of our spending problem,
I
which
and
I don't know if
well, and
it's ever going to get.
and that's one of the things. And I've got the chat window up tonight too for on our screen there for those of you who are watching us live. And one of our listeners, Justin Matthews, just said securing lower prices and prices of goods in the supply chain. That is correct. I mean,
Yes, yes, that's supply shortages is also a huge big one.
we're
Um,
you know,
yeah,
I,
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
we were just saying before we went on the air, Travis and I were talking that, of course, I consider ourselves, Janine and I, middle class family. Of course, she makes a lot more than what I do, but so I got paid. I got paid Friday. I did a wedding Saturday, and I've got $90 to my name right now. Now we didn't. We went out. We went to a movie. We spent between the movie tickets and popcorn $100. We went to Burger King afterwards, and so the total amount for that evening was maybe $150. Okay, we didn't do anything else this weekend. I filled up my truck. I filled up my van, and I'm down to $90. And you mentioned that I want to know how people are still maintaining their current lifestyle because, and I'm ashamed of saying this, but I have a line of credit with my bank, and there's been a couple times this year, more than a couple times, that I've had to borrow money short term from the bank just so I can make. And we literally go out once a month, if that. We go out once a month to do either to go out to eat or go to a movie, maybe once a month. Yeah, I mean, when we get home from work, I mean, other than Vacation Bible School, my kid's going to VBS this week. We don't go anywhere. We can't afford to go anywhere. And I just see, I see these, and the money we used for vacation was my tax return and my coaching money from coaching track this year. That's where I got my money to go on vacation. And I want to know where people are. I mean, wouldn't you think though, Travis? I mean, people have to be doing some of these people just living the way they are. I mean, it has to be being done on credit. Wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I was listening, a couple of guys I listened to on like YouTube and other platforms. I haven't seen the numbers myself, but according to what they've read, a lot of people more people than before taking out lines of credit, and a large majority of people are starting to default on that. And going back to like the uncertainty in markets and stuff, that's a huge factor. There's a lot of uncertainty and then like people defaulting on their credit lines. And another thing too, you got to think 2020, 2021 was a huge housing market push. Everybody was buying homes, everybody. And then what happened towards the end of this housing market rush? Inflation, gas prices go up almost double.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that gets me really worried too. Is like, all right, people start defaulting on their credit lines, credit cards, mortgages start defaulting. I mean, God, you want to talk about things that's getting worse. And we'll be reliving 08 again, if not worse than that,
And I had an opportunity so when I did this wedding on Saturday, Ryan did it up at the Machinist Hall in Quincy. And I got to talk to the president of the local machinist union there in Quincy. And I said, so how many members do you have in your union? He's like 2,000 members. I said, well, that's fantastic. And he just said, yeah. He said, but a lot of our guys are hurting right now. And I thought, union guys? That
surprises me.
And he just said, trying to negotiate cost of living increases is a challenge right now, because with minimum wage going up to $15 an hour, so that's shooting up your bottom line across the board on everything else. And I mean, I think until how do I want to say this? Until your unions, until your white collar guys and blue collar guys catch up to the minimum wage raise, I don't think we're going to see, because I mean, I've got, let me see. So I've got I've got three checks left in this fiscal year. I've got 3 paychecks left in this fiscal year. And then I'll get my first fiscal year, whatever you call 2022 fiscal year check will be on September the 10th. And I'm not counting on seeing a substantial raise. Janine's union just voted on their contract back in May. And so from what she understands, they're going to get she said, a sizable, whatever that means for them, but cost of living increase because of the minimum wage hike. And so I hope that that'll give us some more breathing room, because I mean, it's with her money, from her check, we put money into a Christmas account so we can do Christmas time. We put into our savings account, which is actually in a different credit union, which we don't have any cards or anything with, so we can't spend it. And so it sits over there in Springfield. And if I want to get I have to physically go to Springfield to get it. So that's the best case scenario for us. But like I said, I mean, people who are going to fall on these loans, and I mean, it's too creepy for me, because when I look back, and as a historian, when I look back and I see the 1920s, after the boom after the roaring 20s and the business boom that happened and the housing boom that happened, after we had a mini housing boom after World War I. Okay. And it was so unregulated. It was so unregulated in the 20s, much, much less than what it is now. And one of the leading causes of the Depression, the stock market crash. But one of the other leading things was unbridled hunger for credit, easy money. And I think it's eerily haunting how much we've had this, you want to call it a hiccup, you want to call it whatever. We went through these low interest rates, and again, to slow down borrowing in the 1920s. What did the Fed do? The Fed raised interest rates to slow down borrowing. And they're doing the same thing again. Obviously, our financial folks aren't, because they had left interest rates terribly low throughout the 1920s.
Right.
And look at us. I mean, how long were we below 4%?
I don't know. But I know post-COVID, when the market crashed, their interest rates weren't they negative at one point? Just to get people to spend.
Well, because they were, I mean, the housing loans at the time when I first started selling my house, the first time I tried to sell my house back in 6 years ago. So it was 6 years ago. Interest rates were like at 2%. And then when I bought this house, it was just on the upswing. I still got this house at 3.5%, but and I mean, at least I would say at least 7 to 8 years that we were below 4%. You cannot do that. You cannot and expect people to err on the side of caution and not borrow so much. But I mean, we've beat this horse to death before, talking about how overinflated the housing market is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, lumber prices are still through the roof. I will say this: the price of a 2x4, what's called a stud grade 2x4, which is what you use to frame up your rooms with, has finally got back below $10. It's not. I went in the other day because I'm wanting to finish my wife's office off. And I said, okay, do I want to know what a stud grade 2x4 is? And they said, oh, it's below $10 now. I was like, whoa.
Oh, so great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, I think, what can we say? I mean, that hasn't already been said about what can we say is the best way to approach this recession and how to survive and how to live in this era? What would you? Well, I'll say you say what you're going to say, and then I'll follow you up. But what would you, if somebody says, okay, I'm stretched thin on money as it is. We have a lot of hourly workers who are out there who listen to us. We have a lot of, middle income folks who listen to us. What can we say to these guys to say, okay, what's the best thing that you should be doing right now?
I mean, number one, right off the bat, you need to know your numbers. You need to know your numbers, and you need to have a budget. If you have no idea what's coming in and what's coming out, especially right now, I think you're going to be shocked if you haven't already felt it already. So number one, I think that know your numbers, have a budget. And then two, you got to be realistic with it. I mean, prices are up right now. And if you can't make it happen, maybe you got to change your lifestyle. Maybe you're not eating out as a family 4 nights a month or 8 nights a month, however many times you guys go out. Maybe you got to cut that back and start eating at home. It's stuff like that. Maybe instead of shopping at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or something like that, maybe you got to start shopping at Aldi's. I mean, they got great stuff there. It's Americans, I think, have a really hard time if that makes sense. If we have access to so many great things, and when affordability becomes an issue, it's like, oh no, I'm not going to stop doing that. It's borrow money. I got a credit card. I'll pay it off later.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer. I'm not a money expert. I'm not a money guru. I have my struggles like everybody else. But I mean, you just got to be smart. You got to be smart, and don't play that game of I'll pay it off later.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Really quick. And that's the issue where I'm at right now. But you mentioned budget, so just to tell the folks at home.
There you go. Nice.
I've got it. This is my. I adjust this yearly, and I've had to make multiple copies of that thing so far this year, making multiple adjustments. Justin says, follow versus example, get a sugar mama. Thank you, Justin. We will definitely try that. But
best answer all night.
But no, the thing that we used to do every other weekend. We used to go out every other weekend. McDingers, we loved going to McDingers. And McDingers, by and far, McDingers is one of the, they have great food there, and they do. And they're not terribly expensive. Free plug for McDingers there. Chewy, give us a like on that one. But
there we go.
But your local businesses, and that's the other thing. You have, after a while, I had a friend who had posted a thing today, and let me bring this up. I'd actually posted this on my own personal page, but where was it at?
What is it regarding?
It was said, okay, so this is one of my buddies from back high school days, and she still lives there in the same. A local restaurant in town posted this today. Fryer oil, 12 months ago was $12. 6 months ago it was $35. Today it is $50. Chicken wings was $45 a case 12 months ago, $175 a case today. Takeout boxes, $25 12 months ago, $95 today. And she said, this is the same for all of our cleaning, paper, and food we use. If a local restaurant adds a few dollars to your meal, it's not trying to get rich, it's trying to continue to stay in business. And that's the thing that I worry about with local businesses. How are they going to survive in this time as well? Because you can't tell them, okay, well, you've got to limit your menu or you've got to do this. And they want to try to continue to provide. I saw McDonald's this week is now offering a basket of fries healthiness right there.
Really?
Yeah, so down here they are. I don't know, but the local McDonald's here are now giving. They have, instead of getting you get a basket of fries. It's. I guess the idea
That's
is
just what America needs.
that and the 20-piece McNugget. But the thing about saying, I think the idea is like, well, hey, you can buy this and share it. It's kind of like a buy and share thing. Instead of having to buy a fry for everybody, you just go,
No one's gonna share that thing. Come on now.
We're gonna.
You know how many people buy and eat that thing all themselves? Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
This is America.
I know.
I would do that.
And so that kind of leads into our other area on our survey was, personal health was right up there too. Other than economics, personal health and close behind it there was mental health. Let's go with the mental health aspect of this thing, because when you talk about these recessionary times, or inflationary times rather, it does affect people's mental state,
100% it does.
and for us, because at our jobs, my wife has a very high pressure job where she works for the state, and what she does, and she actually deals with service providers of people with mental health conditions, and these providers, for one thing, they're wanting, the state of Illinois is hard on paying their bills. They're late on paying their bills, obviously. But these people they're like, look, we need to be paid. What's going on? And that, that kind of stress wears on my wife after a while, and after hearing from people like that all day long, and trying to get the dollar from point A to point B. We haven't seen our mental health numbers as far as suicide and death rates in this country are, this last year they supposedly we're on a downtrend right now, but mental health issues are still a big time deal.
Wasn't overdoses on like a high or something
yes,
like that last year?
And so and I was just getting ready to go to that, and I was doing some of the things on some of the people who are. It was kind of shocking to see how many, like during COVID, how many of musicians and like performers dealt with higher chance of overdose or drug addiction, because those guys weren't touring. Those guys weren't out. Those guys weren't doing, and it was hard for them to manipulate or to operate. I'm really concerned though, because of people not being able to go out. What are we seeing how are we seeing people cope? We're seeing more, prescription abuse. We're seeing higher rates of alcoholism. I follow a lot of my former students on Facebook and on Snapchat, and I'm really, really shocked at the amount of how much people are, well, we ain't got nothing, we can't afford to do anything else. Let's just sit around and pop, beer until we're so stupid drunk that we're doing ignorant crap out on the road and stuff like that. It's stuff like that.
Sounds like Pike County.
It does sound like Pike County, but on a large scale though, the things that, I'll say this, and I am not an expert on anything else, but one of the things that I have been told a lot of times, when we first got our kids home, we went through a lot of family counseling, and our counselor was fantastic. He's still a friend of ours, and he actually works in the church that we go to. And the thing that he said over and over in periods of high times of stress is that you have to, the way he put it is, you have to afford yourself a little grace. And what that translates into is, don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah. Because what we do when we get into this mindset, we think that we are the only ones. And I could sit here and say, man, I am the only guy who's dealing with financial issues right now, and we're just, but you have to look on don't you? if you really have to step back and say, whoa, hold on a second there. You're not alone in this. And the other part of this problem is people don't talk about it. They talk about it. They, pardon my French, but they bitch about it, but they don't talk about it. You know, it's like, and just, you know, because what does everybody do on social media? Well, we got to blame sleepy Joe Biden, and we got to blame this guy, and we got to blame that guy. And okay, instead of doing that, why don't we talk about, it's like, man, how are you doing? You know, we get so nonchalant when we ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? Right? I mean, because how often when somebody says, hey, Travis, how you doing? You say, oh, I'm fine. You know, I talked with Matt after last week's show, Matt Edelman, and I was like, man, I need to talk to him. And we talked for an hour about the same stuff, you know, and it's just, if you don't have somebody, you know, you can have your friends that you go out but I mean, I think part of the way to deal with mental health is to have somebody you can just talk to. And that person doesn't have to be someone who can solve your problems for you. We miss a lot today by just not listening to other people's issues. If I want to say, you know, us three, me, you, and Sean, we know that we can call each other anytime, day or night. And half the time we chat on the group chat at all times of day and night, you know. And I mean, and we just like, oh my gosh, I'm just dealing with this thing, or and we're there for each other. But I mean, I think there's some people who don't have a network of, I mean, we have networks of people that we hang out with, but do you have people that you can honestly feel, hey, I got to sit down and just talk about this? Because I have students all the time. I mean, I've had, you know, over the thousands of students that I've had 3 who have committed suicide, you know, either in high school or after high school. And there's one young man who I'm thinking about. It was right at the beginning of my teaching career. And this kid he's in high school. He was a basketball stud, popular kid in school. And then he got out into the real world, you know, and it just hit him in the face. And, you know, everybody admired him for being the great basketball player and the popular kid in school, but he didn't have anybody to relate to talk to feel comfortable with, you know. And I think that's part of the thing that we have to be able to have open channels with each other. And I think, and I'll let you, I've been blabbing a lot here, but I think one of the problems that we have is, since we are in this new 21st century mindset of I'm right, you're wrong, I'm smart, you're stupid, we're afraid to talk to other people because we don't want to look weak. We don't want to look, you know, like we've got issues that we can't deal with, and so we don't talk about them.
No, I agree with everything you said 100%. I would guarantee, unfortunately, a majority of people don't have that person that asks them, hey, are you okay? I'm like, no. Are you okay? Like, what is going on in your life? Like, I would really believe most people don't have that, unfortunately. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe more people do have that. But that's one thing we were talking about, you know, really having these deep conversations and not just, you know, all of the small talk. How are you doing? Oh, I'm good. Or let's bitch about Joe Biden or something. That's one thing I really enjoy about the podcast and what we do is, you know, most interviews, it is just small talk and bullshit like you see on like CNN, Fox, or whatever news outlets or your night shows. It's all bullshit. But podcast, if it's a good podcast, you have a conversation that's actually discussing issues and trying to like work things through. And I think what that emphasizes to people is that you need to have conversations on not just, you know, the things we're talking about tonight, but all the issues we've discussed, like politics, you know, racial issues, gun laws, all this bullshit that we've talked about. If more people would sit down and actually have conversations, well thought out conversations, not just the surface talks that we have that get nowhere. and we all just agree with each other to avoid conflict, I think that would solve a lot of issues.
And I do have a lot of friends who work in the mental health field who can definitely reverberate that, because one of the greatest problems that we have faced and that we are facing is the fact that when we went through the Depression, when you talk, and I mean, and here's the sad thing, a lot of those folk, we used to be able to say, man, we could talk to a World War II vet whenever we wanted to. The folks who were in the heart of the Depression are getting fewer and far between. But you talk to those people. Yeah. My dad was one of them. My dad was born in the heart of the Depression. And his dad worked for the WPA, and my other grandfather worked for the WPA. And when, my mom has been gone 10 years now, but, my dad will always tell you that, man, during the Depression, neighborhood ladies would farm ladies would, hey, if we could buy stuff, they would put their money together and they would buy food by the bulk. They would buy beef by the bulk, or everybody would, hey, we're going to butcher a cow and we're going to split this amongst everybody. It was more sense of community. And
that's just it. That is one of the biggest things I think we have been missing for, I don't know how many years, especially since COVID. Like, there is, from what I've seen, in my opinion, there has been a huge loss of community. I mean, would you agree with me on that?
I would definitely agree. Yeah, I mean, so where you live at right now, what's the rough population? You're in Algonquin, so right? So what's the rough population of the area that you're at?
I don't know. I would say it's like a Wentzville.
I was going to say, look her up there and see. But I mean, so within your neighborhood, how many?
29,700.
Okay, yeah. So that's Wentzville. So how many people within your neighborhood do you know?
I know a handful of people. Yeah. There's been neighbors that came and introduced themselves, and said the neighborly thing.
And that's rare too. That's rare.
It is. I was actually surprised to see that, because that's definitely not something I saw in Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's a nice neighborhood. People wave, they're friendly, and that was, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. One of the things that I made myself do was, I met my neighbors. I still haven't met my neighbors across the street. I don't know. For all I know, they're cooking meth over there. But please don't come, please. Yeah. But for all when I was growing up as a kid, and I spent most of my formative years in a town of about close to 2,000 people, Waverly, Illinois. It's where I met Janine at. I spent most of my formative years there. We knew every neighbor. Yeah, within the block, we knew every neighbor. And our next door neighbors, we would go over and they'd sit on our porch and we'd sit on their porch. And whenever mom would be in the hospital or she'd go through one of her sick spells, we never asked, but people were always bringing over food and meals and stuff like that. And, and there was just this communication of being able to go out and help a brother or help a friend in need. And you still see that in some of these smaller areas. I lived in a community in southeast Missouri in the Boot Hill called Bloomfield, which was, when I lived there, was a great town to live in because people were very, open and friendly to you. Louisiana, not, it's kind of a different story, but the idea of community is lost on this generation, on previous generations. Justin says, I can go on about that in regards to the degree in Parks and Rec. The basis is the privacy fence, and the backyard made us close off from our neighborhood and our yes, definitely.
Yeah,
that is a great point, Justin. And we don't get involved. It's like, man, if we hear the neighbors arguing out in their backyard, we're going to kind of meander inside and just, flip on Netflix and let's just watch and and not, and void. And being able to be involved with people, this is one of the things why, and this makes people uncomfortable about me, but this is why I'm involved in my church. Part of my mission and part of my goal as an individual, as a follower of Jesus, one of my things is, how can I be of service to somebody? How can I help somebody? If there's a need, and Martin kind of mentioned this last week, and again, thank you, Martin Hanley, for being on last week. Great guest. But
yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, but part of that is my goal as a Christian. Even I'm not going to be out. I may not be out there and saying, "Hey, I'm going to invite everybody to church, this or that." But what I am going to do, the word that I like to use is this, and people struggle with this, is to be intentional. I work at being intentional. And what that means is, if I go out look, it's like instead of going out looking for trouble. Hey, Dylan, good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Dylan Lunsford just said, "What's up?" I go about being intentional. I want to say, if I see a kid sitting alone at a lunch table or something like that, I want to go talk to that kid. I want to say, "Hey, what's up?" Or I, make it a point. Or if I see my neighbor out in the yard, or if I see, one of the things, and I don't want to say this to be bragging. I'm not. Please don't take this as I'm bragging. But this, and I want my kids to see me doing stuff like this, because I want them to learn this stuff. This was back towards the end of school. And if you go the 4-way there in Louisiana, when you first come into town, you cross the bridge into Louisiana. It's kind of unique there because there used to be a gas station on every corner there where 79 and 54 meet. And now there's just 2 gas stations there. And on this one corner was this, what appeared to be a Middle Eastern family. And they weren't in a junky car. They were in a nice, looked like a Toyota minivan, probably a mid-2000s. And the guy's sitting there. And I just kind of looked out of place. And I drove over to the guy and I said, "Hey, is there something I can help you with?" Or he's like, "Well," he said, I said, "My family and I, we're traveling back to Houston. We're from Houston, and we were visiting some relatives in Chicago, and we were kind of out of gas and out of, I said, "Okay, what do you need?" He said, and while I'm standing there talking to this guy, a guy in a truck goes by and goes home and yells out something to go home, you towelhead, or you mother, he said, and stop bumming off of it, and just as and it kind of hit me hard. And I said, "I'll be right back." So I went across the street to the Shell station. I got the guy some gift cards for gas. I said, "Will this get you home?" He said, "Yes." He said, "This is more than enough to get me home." And as I talked to him, as I was talking to him, yeah, he had a real thick Middle Eastern accent. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to pray for you and your family tonight." And he said, I will seek blessings from God for you." And to me, that just sounded like something I was like, okay, he's probably Muslim. And, and it was just 2 parallels. And it just made me really sick to see somebody going by and yelling at somebody in need and saying, "Hey, you freaking freeloader." And these people they weren't in trashy clothes. They weren't in, this was legitimately somebody. Now, I've seen panhandlers before who just sit there and they, this wasn't this guy, but anymore we view that in society. When we view somebody who's going through hard times, those people are just living off of welfare and they're just trying to get we've lost our sense of compassion to say, okay, how, and I've even heard pastors say, "Oh, we try not to help that girl out or that lady out too much because she's a user and she's an abuser." Okay. Okay. You're totally missing the point then.
That is, yeah.
Because this is the stuff that people are are missing. I think that if we don't address these issues, I mean, these mental health things are only going to get worse. Because when you pull all of this together, when you pull in recession, when you pull in not job shortages, but just people not making the money. That's the other thing that we could revisit that too. Is like people having to work more just to get by, and the places they're working they're still short on labor. That also confuses me, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing that was on the list there was just physical health. And I look to you and Sean. You guys are, I would classify as gym rats or healthy guys. And what do you do? What do you do, Travis, as far as promoting a healthy lifestyle for yourself? What's some of the things that you do to promote a healthy lifestyle for yourself?
Just for myself, I mean, this is what I do, and this is a little extreme. I train almost 2 days, 2 times a day. I'm training for. I'm currently working with a coach, and I'm actually legitimately trying to train for the CrossFit Games. I'm trying to do a full program. I've been eating like anywhere from 3,500 to 6,000 calories a day for the past like month and a half now.
Jeez.
Just trying to get stronger. I'm training like 7-8 different lifts, like working on like snatches, cleans, your Olympic lifting. I'm doing a deadlift program. I'm doing a lot of stuff right now, so I don't know if that's quite.
What's
There's a coach, I forget his name.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What was your question?
I was going to say, what do you find is the most difficult thing as you do this? What's the most? I mean, is it the mental motivation or is it I mean, what do you feel is the greatest challenge for you in this?
It really is. It's a mix of both. I will say the hardest days are the days where I do overtime at work and I'm getting home and it's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And it's like, well, shit, I got to wake up. I got to be up at 4, but I still got to do 5x5 back squat at 90% of a 1 rep max. And then I got to do bench today, also 5x5 at 85%. And then I got to do a Metcon after that. So it's stuff like that. That's kind of a bad promotion for health because there's a certain line between health and sickness. And unfortunately, training for something like that, it gets kind of blurred.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say your everyday person, I mean, for example, I enjoy CrossFit. I enjoy strength training, stuff like that. And that's fine. Some people might like that. Some people might hate that. And that's totally okay. What I encourage everybody to do is just find something that keeps you active and something you enjoy. Mm-hmm. If you love doing yoga and that's like your thing, you look forward to that yoga session, do yoga. Mm-hmm. That is awesome. If you're someone, you mentioned you're getting into swimming now, that is great. Swimming is a great exercise. It's low impact. And I think it's really beneficial. And if it's something you're going to do consistently and you enjoy, by all means do it. I think more people need to like try different things. There's so many people that, try to Pilates class and they're like, oh, I didn't like it. Or they tried a cycling class. I didn't like it. All right, try something else.
Well, and I can say this now because my daughter's asleep, but my daughter was the one who really pushed for this because as she is now getting ready to go into junior high, which is a thing that blows my mind in and of itself, but she has entered into this phase and it's been surprising for my wife and I because I think probably when she turned 10. I mean, she's 11 now, but she has gotten into this mentality of self-health, and my daughter, she has, I could go up right now and grab her computer and pull up the file. She actually, I watched her type it out. She has her routine down and she is not your typical 11-year-old. She is now running where she's running 11 years old, and she's training right now. She runs 2 laps around our entire subdivision, and it's a mile and a half. She comes home and she said, "Well, Dad, what's something I can do to work on my chest?" I'm like, "Honey, you don't have a chest." But I said, "If you want to develop your abdominal strength," I said, "do sit-ups." She does 100 sit-ups. And I've walked in on her many times this summer in the middle of doing 100 sit-ups. And so I was like, okay, this kid is doing something, so we need to do something. And she said, "Dad, I'm trying to cut out soda." Again, an 11-year-old cutting out soda. And I told Janine, we got groceries on Friday. I said, "I'm not ordering soda this month. We're not having it." So we have a refrigerator full of Propel, and we have 248 cases of water, and we have all the little powder mixes you can put in with your water too. And within the last month, I've started swimming. I do 500 meters, a little bit under half a mile. Bryson and I swim. Janine's been getting into it. We swim every morning, every weekday morning.
That's awesome.
And I'm not losing weight as fast as I would like to. I mean, there was a time 4 years ago when I was running. I got up to where I was running 4 miles a day, and I got down to 273 pounds. And then I had a partial tear of my quad, and I got out of running, and I put all that weight back on. It's so easy because of think about this. We do have all the entertainment options where we can just, when we get home from work, my wife and I, our first thing is we just crash out on the couch, flip on HBO Max or Disney Plus, or flip on something and just do 4 hours of streaming.
And that's very easy to do.
Yeah. And so we get into that mentality. I mean, Janine and I, so this was the thing. When we got our kids from China, we had one of the requirements and there was one of the best things that ever happened. One of the things that the Chinese, our BMI had to be at 40, like the morbidly obese line, I think it is, or whatever.
I think 40.
Yeah,
is.
And we had to have our BMI below 40. And Janine and I had to work our tails off to get down to that. I mean, and I guarantee I'm probably back up around 41, 42 now. And there was a time when but it's so easy. And COVID was one of those things that just rocked us to sleep because we didn't have the YMCA was closed. The YMCA was
a lot of gyms.
Closed. Gyms were closed. And so what'd we do? I mean, we sat around the house. We did these things to promote good mental and physical health. I mean, like you said, Travis, I mean, you do cross, I mean, and we encourage, and I'm not the vision of health that I need to be. I want to be in better shape. I want to be, and it's stuff like this. And so I guess, we can end up tonight by just saying this, there are a lot of issues that are going on out there. There are a lot of things that can wear on you. I tell people this, and I've seen this posted online many times. Don't overwork yourself, because now if you work in a job where you feel appreciated and you feel like you're valued, you do your work and then you call it a day. But some of these jobs, they treat you like a cog in the machine, and they wouldn't miss a beat if you called in sick. Don't get yourself in that situation to where you're so stressed out over that. Get in a good mental place. If you're not happy with your work, folks, we can say this with all certainty. The market is wide open. If you're not happy, yes. Now is the time. You can't often say this, but now is the time to make career moves and career changes. If you're not happy, make a move.
I just had this conversation with a close friend. If she's listening, she knows who she is.
Yeah, and so
if you're not happy, just do something.
If you're not happy, I mean, say, well, maybe and listen. Some of these places, they'll train you. They're that hard up. right now, Missouri, and I want to kind of get into this next week, but Missouri teaching standards, right? I mean, we're at such a teaching shortage right now that the certification for teachers they're making it easier to get teaching certificates. My dogs are, I have no idea what's going on. So, but, yeah, if you're, get yourself in a better place. And as always, we're not open 24 hours a day, but we have our message lines. If you want to directly message one of us, you can do that. If you don't have a good source, a good community group, a good group, find a group to get involved in. Find the self-help groups. Go to your local church. Go to your local wherever. I mean, get into a gym class, a local gym class, and get into an aquatics. If you want something low impact, aquatics aerobic workout, like Travis said, cycling groups. You can get a sense of community through that. There are a lot of things out there. And I think the biggest thing that we can say before we close up tonight is this. Remember, you are not alone. You are not alone. We are going through this together, and hopefully we can give you just a little break from your week. And if you're listening to this on Spotify this week or whatever you're doing, know that you got 3 guys out here who are rooting for you, and we really do that. So anyway, hopefully next week we will have back our fearless leader. And but if not, that's okay. Travis and I are having fun here and everything else like that. So anything else that I'm missing? I think we're good. Please check out.
I think we're good.
Please check out our merch page. Please. We have some great merchandise up there. We're putting the order in here in 2 weeks. It's a rather small order right now. I'd like to make it a big order. Before I forget, though, Sean was talking about a giveaway, and here is the giveaway. If you share this, of course, we can look on our page when people share this. If you share this Facebook or whatever, and we see that you shared it, at the end of the month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the names of the people who shared it, and I'm going to put it into a hat, and I'm going to draw out, and that person is going to get their choice of any of the line, whether a hoodie, a jersey, or whatever. And if it's a jersey, we're going to put your name on the back of it. But this goes until the end of the month. Share this. Share it with your friends, and we're going to draw for a name at the end of the month. And whoever has done this, hey, share it every week. Every time you share, I'm going to put your name in the hat again. So every time you share, that's another entry in for the free giveaway. So just do that kind of good stuff. Anyway, Travis, as always, good to have you, buddy. Sean, we look forward to having you back next week. And other than that, this is the Voice of Reason. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, the Google Podcast, or all that good stuff. Anyway, share it with a friend. Make sure that you share the Facebook and invite people to the Facebook, and we'll get you in the drawing. So other than that, we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, guys.